Hello and welcome back to the Mojave, everybody. Welcome back to Fallout New Vegas, where today we're going to be taking a look at the Trail Carbine. This is another cowboy gun. This is actually our very first 44 Magnum round gun, which is pretty cool. There's not a whole lot of them in this game. There's the Trail Carbine, the 44 Magnum pistol, and then Fido. I think that's the only three that are actually 44 Magnums, not counting any sort of unique version. I guess Fido is the unique version. This one is kind of a rare gun that you're probably not going to be finding super early on. The Trail Carbine, you kind of can. There's at least two places that I know of where the Trail Carbine will always spawn. One of them is north of Good Springs. If you run up there and go up to the town above that, you have to kind of go through the Cazadors. You have to go to the town there, and there is two Raider leaders, one of them having combat armor, the unique spike knuckles, and then a plasma grenade. She's kind of scary. She's not the one that has the Trail Carbine, but the other one is, who has reinforced metal armor, and he's got a Trail Carbine there that you can take. You can also get one of these in Novak too. If you go into Ranger Andy's house, you can steal it from there. So the Trail Carbine requires 75 guns and 5 strength. A decent amount of guns, not a whole lot of strength though. Most gun builds are going to be able to use this, and by the time you're getting to Novak, you could have 75 guns. Assuming you're just not going for an all-over general purpose build, it's totally manageable if you're just going to rush the guns there. This one does 48 damage per shot, which is quite high. 74 damage per second, also pretty decent. Although the damage per second will drop a little bit because this is a gun that you have to load one round in at a time. So if you have to take a long reload, your damage per second might be a little bit slower, but you can cancel that reload whenever you'd like, so that's a bonus. This does 48 crit damage, same as its normal damage. Has a 1x crit chance, which is perfectly fine. This one only costs 29 action points to use in VATS, which isn't bad at all, especially for how much damage it does. This one has a 0.06 spread, so it is an extremely accurate gun. Pretty much all the lever actions are extremely accurate. This holds 8 rounds in it. This weighs 5.5 weight, so it's not too heavy, and this has a pretty high amount of item health at 500, so it takes a long time to break the Trail Carbine. Assuming you're not using the unique rounds in it, because they can actually break it somewhat quick. It's not going to be the fastest, but it's quicker than what you would expect. For the pros of the Trail Carbine, this one does have really high item health. That's fantastic. It doesn't break super quick, does high damage, has high accuracy. All around, it's a pretty decent weapon at kind of everything. The only cons to it are kind of the longer reload, but that just depends on how many rounds you actually need to reload into the gun, and the gun is kind of rare. You're only going to be able to find this in a couple locations. It's not a super common weapon, and that can be kind of a bummer sometimes because repairing these early on might be a little bit difficult, but if you get jury rigging, it's super easy, or if you have weapon repair kits, it's also super easy. For the ammo that the Trail Carbine can fire, it fires the 44 Magnum round, so it has the standard 44s. These ones don't really do anything, they just give you your base damage, no extra armor breaking or anything like that. You have the 44 special rounds. Usually buy these in bulk, however you can buy them a couple of rounds at a time from certain vendors, and these ones do less damage per shot, but they also break your gun slower. And if you're going to load these into the Trail Carbine, it actually takes a very long time to break the Trail Carbine with this, since it already has high item health. It's the same thing with the 44 Magnum, because that one also has pretty high item health, one of the highest of any of the handguns. This one can also load hollow points into it. Hollow points make it so you get more damage, but the enemy also gets more armor. So if you're fighting armored enemies, hollow points aren't really that great, but if you're fighting non-armored enemies, hollow points are fantastic. And then you have these semi-wad cutters. These ones are rather unique too, because they give you more damage, they give you armor penetration, but they break your gun 3 times as fast. So if you're loading these in the Trail Carbine, you can actually kind of break it quick. It's not going to be super fast, you're going to notice it, but it is something to keep in mind. I still think that they're really good rounds to be loading into the gun, and this one is usually given to you from the hand loader perk, like most of these other unique rounds. However, with the 44, it's kind of different because you don't actually need the perk to get this. You can just go up above New Vegas. It's not quite on Freeside, but it's somewhere near Freeside. You find a guy named Jules, you talk to him, and if you pass a guns check, that's I think 65 or so, then you can get these from him. And this is basically the only unique round that you can get this way. So even if you don't want to grab hand loaner, you can still get the unique ammo for it, which is really awesome. For a tier ranking, I would put the Trail Carbine right up into A tier. It's a very solid weapon at doing basically everything. I don't think it's overpowered. I don't think it's quite S tier, but it is just very, very solid at any sort of job that you want it to do. There is also a modded version of this, sort of, so let's talk about that really quick, because it only has one mod. They were supposed to give it more mods than it has, but those were cut for time reasons. So the one mod that it does have, at least in the regular game, not counting, well, modding your game, is the scope. The scope is a short-range scope. It's basically the same scope as the hunting revolver. You're just putting it on the Trail Carbine. And this isn't necessarily a pro or a con towards the Trail Carbine. I would say the Trail Carbine already has the best iron sights out of any of the lever action guns besides the medicine stick, so it doesn't really need a scope on there, but the scope is a fine addition if you like using it, so be on the lookout for it if you want that. Otherwise, don't worry about it because it's not a huge deal if you don't have it. So adding the scope to it, I don't think really lowers or raises the Trail Carbine anywhere on the tier list. I just felt like we should probably mention it since it is something that you can add to the gun if you do find it. There are a couple vendors that sell this, like Crimson Caravan and like the 188. They can potentially sell this to you. There are some perks too that help out with the Trail Carbine. Mostly Cowboy. Cowboy's going to be the major one that gets you 25% more damage per shot with this. That is a pretty big damage buff for it, and it's a really good perk to have in general if you like any of the Cowboy type weapons. Beyond that, Handloader could be a good choice if you don't want to wait until you go up to New Vegas to get the semi-wad cutters, and if you plan on using other unique rounds too, then that one can still be pretty good. Aside from that, everything else is just going to be the basic stuff that gets you more damage, so like better crits, bloody mess, maybe rapid reload could be a good one for you too if you feel like this is taking a little bit too long to reload the gun. That at least speeds up the reload animation a little bit. So in conclusion, should you use the Trail Carbine? I would say sure. If you're running a guns build, it's pretty good. It doesn't really have any problems fighting off basically anything. It can work well in just about every sort of situation. And even if you're not running a guns build, it can still actually be pretty decent because it does high enough damage and holds a lot of shots. So assuming you got 44 rounds, why not grab one? So tell me your thoughts on the Trail Carbine. I would love to hear them. How do you guys enjoy this? Do you like it more with or without the scope? Usually I'm using it without the scope, but the scope isn't bad either. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you guys so very much for watching it, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye, everyone.